29th of August 2011, and we're at the home of Richard Humphries in Elfrida.
Well, that's my mailing address, but my location is 15 miles out in the middle of nowhere northwest of Elfrida.
My name is Richard Ryan, and your full name is?
Richard Humphries.
And Richard, when were you born?
May 14th, 1935, which makes me 76 years old now.
And where were you born?
Florence, Arizona. Well, my parents moved to Arizona from Oklahoma during the Great Depression. My dad was originally from Texas. My mother was from Muskogee, Oklahoma. I'm not even sure how they met, but they married, and they came to Arizona in a Model T Ford with everything they owned in the Ford. And my mother told me that there's no way they could have made it had he not had a siphon hose with him, because they had no money at all. And every now and then they would see a tractor out in the field, and they would stop and siphon some gas out of the tractor so they could keep going. And my dad had a job as a farm laborer with his uncle in Gilbert, Arizona. So for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, they lived on this farm in Gilbert in a tent on a canal bank. And my dad did the farm labor work, chopping weeds and watering the crops and whatever that needed to be done. And my mother washed and ironed for the entire farm crew, as well as cooked for them. And the only running water they had was that was running by in the canal on the bank that they were living in the tent. So they had quite a life. But after that, the Depression loosened up, and my job started a mechanics shop in Marana, Arizona. Just a shade tree mechanic. Did fairly well. And after a couple of years there, he got on with the Indian Service.
Your dad?
My dad.
Yeah.
Got on with the Indian Service and moved to Coolidge, Arizona. And they were living on a little house, very modest place, about 2 miles out of town on a cotton farm.
And this was the early 30s?
This was the very early 30s. I know that for a fact because my dad was killed on the job right before I was born, and I was born in 1935. And my mother never remarried, and I grew up in Coolidge.
What was he doing with the Indians?
Well, mostly I think repairing roads on the Indian reservations.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was on that particular job when he was riding in the back of a pickup truck, and the pickup truck had some telephone poles in the back of it, probably short ones, but the truck turned over, and when it turned over, one of the poles crushed him and killed him.
You were born
Actually,
in 35.
about 3 or 4 months before I was born, so it was just right at the beginning of 1935, yeah.
So what kind of position did that leave your mother in, with him all of a
Well,
sudden?
luckily she had a step-grandfather that was a fairly well-off cotton farmer in Coolidge. And he was my step-granddad. He was my step-granddad, not hers. He took care of her more than anything. Without him, I don't know what we would have done. But he bought a little home for us in Coolidge, even though he lived on a farm right outside of Coolidge. And that's where I grew up, grade school through high school.
But you were born in Florence, not Coolidge?
Well, yeah, because the hospital was in Florence. There wasn't a hospital in Coolidge.
Oh,
School and high school, right.
In Coolidge. Through the 1930s, and
Graduated from high school in 1953.
then there you are, out of high school. What'd you do then?
Went into college for a couple of years and wasted my time and a lot of my mother's money. I had no business going to college because I was just a young, foolish kid. But then I got into the Air Force.
And college was at ASU or U of A?
University of Arizona in Tucson. And one semester I went to school at the, trying to think what it was called. They've changed the name. It's a college in Las Cruces, New Mexico. While I was there that semester, I got to work out at White Sands Missiles ground, White Sands Proving Ground, on the missiles for that semester to make enough money to keep going. But while I was in college, I was taking an ROTC course. And my grades were pretty bad in most of my classes. Some of the classes I was making A's in, most of them pretty bad. So one day my ROTC instructor called me in and he said, "Richard, why don't you think about getting in the military?" He said, "You just took this test that we give for ROTC students. You excelled on this test. Why don't you become an aviation cadet and become a military pilot?" And I said, "Well, it's an incredibly good idea. I come from a flying family, but and he said, "No, don't even talk about it, just do it." So I took this 8-hour test, written test, and did very well on it. and joined the Air Force as an aviation cadet, and flew in the Air Force for 3 years. Let's see, I've got a picture on the wall there of me in my pre-flight training class back in '61, isn't it?
Oh, there's a pretty good smile. That's you.
That's me. Haven't changed a bit, have I?
Well, how about that? How many years were you in the Air Force?
Well, only 3.
Right?
I
Normally?
had every intention of making a career out of being an Air Force pilot, but near the end of my 3rd year, one of my physicals showed that my left ear was getting really bad, and I was losing my hearing in my left ear. And the young man that gave me the test lied. He fibbed on the results so I could still sit behind the cockpit. But we knew darn good and well that the next time I took a physical, the guy would not, So I found out that because when I had signed up, I signed up for a 3-year contract. And during my service, they had changed it to a 4-year contract. So because of my hearing and the fact that I didn't want to be taken out of the cockpit and put behind the desk, they let me just get out with an honorable discharge, of course. Because of that, they let all of us that wanted to get out of the service because it was a different procedure. 61 is when I went through pre-flight.
Oh, okay.
That would have been about 64.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there you are out of the service, and you're how old probably? About
25,
early 20s? Yeah,
something like
25,
that. Yeah, about 25. Yeah.
So what do you do then?
Well, I met a beautiful young Italian gal from Tucson, and we married. And she became a Playboy bunny, and I became a Scottsdale policeman. Got into law enforcement. That was before Scottsdale had it. Excuse me. That was before Scottsdale had its own academy. So they sent me through the Phoenix Police Academy. So I'm a graduate of the Phoenix Police Academy, and then I spent 2 years as a Scottsdale cop. And then my wife decided that she wanted to be a Playboy bunny at the Los Angeles club instead of the Phoenix club, and insisted that we move. So I quit my job as a Scottsdale cop, and we moved to Los Angeles. And I got a job at the Santa Monica airport as a flight instructor, and she was a Playboy bunny. And after about a year over there, we lived right on the beach. It was beautiful. And by that time, we had a young daughter, Tracy. But my wife met an aspiring actor that started leaving her $100 tips or whatever, and she started coming home later and later at night, and one thing led to another, and finally she said, "Richard, why don't you just leave?" So I packed everything I owned in a suitcase and hitchhiked back to Tucson, Arizona, left her the car. She wanted everything, and got very menial jobs here and there for about 3 or 4 months in Tucson, and then they fired every single person on the Arizona State Liquor Control Department for malfeasance of sons, for falsifying, you name it. It was just one thing. It was a very corrupt organization. So they fired everybody on the Liquor Control Department and were hiring like crazy. Well, it paid twice what I'd been making for a Scottsdale cop, so it was a pretty appealing job. And the funny part about that, in a sense it was funny, to show you how things used to be, the Arizona State Liquor Control Department did not even have an application form. The only way you got that job was if you knew someone. That was it. Well, I had a law enforcement background, and I knew the governor of Arizona and the mayor of Coolidge and whatever, so I got hired right away. So I spent about 5 years, I guess, as a liquor control agent in Tucson, and then moved to Phoenix.